Welcome in, everybody, or welcome back to the Marshall Experience. Appreciate everybody being in here tonight. Tonight, we're going to start a tradition that we usually do every year that we're going to continue to do for before the fantasy football drafts really like gear up. We're going to go through in real life, right? The real NFL divisions. This tonight, we're going to start with the AFC East. We're going to basically break down the team, the stars, the questions, the just any statements, and then we'll have some bold takes for each division at the end of the night. So stay tuned for that. But basically, yeah, like that's what's going to happen throughout this next week. We're just going to go through the AFC East, or sorry, the AFC first, and then we'll transfer over to the NFC. And then to be decided what we're going to do after that. So next couple of weeks are going to be exciting. Make sure you guys tune in for all the divisions, but not only that, but just your division, your team, to kind of see how that's going to pan out. Before we get started tonight, obviously, if you have not, go check out the guys over there at Sports Lounge Media. If you have not checked out the team, plenty of stuff to cover. We cover basketball, football, baseball, WNBA. We do it all, guys. And you can find that at Sports Lounge Media. They're on all platforms, sportsloungemedia.com, where we put up our blogs. It's a big platform, and we're only growing, so we want you to be a part of that. And we would appreciate any subscription or subscribe or follow on all platforms. So appreciate Sports Lounge Media, all they do, and great team over there. So go check them out, guys. So we'll go ahead and get started tonight. Again, basically, AFC East fantasy football preview for 2026. So we'll start with the Buffalo Bills. I think we'll get the obvious ones out of the way. Fantasy stars, right? Josh Allen. I think he's still the quarterback one overall candidate for every season until age or injury, determine otherwise. So James Cook would be my next guy. Efficient, but I think the touchdown competition remains. Okay. I think you'll see maybe a little bit more Ray Davis sprinkled in there. I think that now DJ Moore is is in the scene. Shakir with Keon Coleman looking for a breakout year. I just think there's a little bit of competition for the touchdowns, especially when Josh Allen is your quarterback. I think that takes a lot away from your rushing production in the touchdown form when, he's usually number, if not one or two, in the rushing touchdown department. So I think that does take away from James Cook a little bit, but James Cook is very efficient, very talented in his position of football. So another thing I have on here, Keon Coleman, the breakout potential, like we just said, entering year 3. I think that, he had a slow start coming on. I think the addition of DJ Moore is actually going to help him. I don't think that he's necessarily a wide receiver 2 guy yet. I think it might have been a little bit too much on his shoulders, especially as a rookie. Not a lot of rookies can perform at that level, like a 1,000-yard season, right? He could obviously carry the weight. Not a lot of other players can do that. Okay, so when Josh Allen is your quarterback, you definitely have to be able to step up and give Josh Allen, I think, that guy that he hasn't had since maybe Stephon Diggs. I think Shakir can be that, but I haven't seen him make that next step yet to be in that wide receiver 1 tier for me. So, and neither is DJ Moore. So I think they have a bunch of wide receiver 2s, but they don't have that alpha. And I think Keon Coleman for this year, I think is going to feed off of that. And being the third guy now on the wide receiver depth chart, I think that'll benefit his fantasy season. Now, some of the questions. Like we just talked about, who becomes Allen's number 1 wide receiver? Okay, is it Shakir? Is it Moore? Is it Coleman? Kincaid, you know what I mean? Who's going to be the guy out of the wide receiver department? I mean, comfortability wise, right? It has to be Shakir. Shakir is the guy to go to when it comes to the playbook with the comfortability-ness. DJ Moore is just simply the new guy on the team, and Keon Coleman just hasn't shown that ability of being the guy yet. So if I'm going to pick anybody, I think it's going to be Shakir. But I do think that DJ Moore is going to surprise a lot of fantasy managers this year with the obvious upgrade in Caleb Williams to Josh Allen. Yes, Caleb Williams we do think is going to have a top 8 season, but I mean we're talking about a quarterback that finishes 1, 2, or 3 in fantasy damn near every season. So for me, I mean it has to be Shakir, but if I'm willing to take a dart and I'm willing to take a shot in the dark, I'm willing to take it on DJ Moore. Does Cook finally get elite goal line volume? And again, as we covered earlier, I think that it's difficult for even a Saquon Barkley that has Jalen Hurts. When you have a rushing quarterback like Jaden Daniels, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, you have these rushing quarterbacks that are stealing rushing touchdowns from you. It hurts the running back department, and it hurts those elite goal line volumes, especially with the tush push still being active. So for me, I think that elite goal line volume, I'm not sure that if he'll ever reach that being with Josh Allen as his quarterback. I'm not sure if the consistency will remain the same from last season. I mean, he had a heck of a season. My next question, can Coleman become a top 15 fantasy wide receiver? No. I don't think that he has that ability to necessarily take that next step to top 15. I think top 15 is kind of crazy. I would say with being DJ Moore, with Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, James Cook, I mean, it is a loaded department. Can Keon Coleman maybe be a top 30 wide receiver? Potentially. I think that, he is in form for a breakout year, but again, he has a lot to prove. And I think that he has to put it out on the table and show Josh Allen in this and Joe Brady that he can be the guy. My fantasy grade for this entire team would be an A-. I think there's a lot of potential here, a lot of good offensive pieces. Obviously, again, Josh Allen being the highlight of that. Next team we're going to talk about is the Miami Dolphins. Okay. For me, not too much promise. I have a grade with a C+ with upside, and let's get into it here. New quarterback, right? New quarterback and Malik Willis. I think that, Miami went from potentially a loaded offense with, minus the struggling Tua, but we'll just toss that up to concussions and just the injury itself. But, I mean, you had Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devon Achane. You had, Jalen Wright. You have a lot of speed and the most speed out of the entire NFL. Just didn't work, right? So now that's no longer a thing. So we went from a loaded fantasy offense potentially to really now a mystery box offense. Okay, we really don't know what's going to happen or who's going to step up or who's going to have the fantasy weeks, guys. Malik Willis being the new quarterback, I think, is a late round fantasy sleeper because of the rushing upside that he holds. Not necessarily the passing ability or the wide receiver that he has, the wide receiver room, but the rushing ability that he has shown in Green Bay when he's came in for games for Jordan Love. I mean, the guy can run. So I think that the rushing upside for Malik Willis is through the roof, and I think that pushes him into late round fantasy sleeper for drafters. Next is Devon Achane, right? I think still the main fantasy prize when it comes to the Dolphins, right? I don't think that's a question. Without Hill, Waddle, and Tua now, I also do, however, think that defenses obviously will keen in on him more, right? Whether that is he's able to beat that, we'll find out. But when you're more the main focus on that side of the ball, and they put 8 in the box and do these things to prevent you from having these big games, it does hurt the fantasy production. So volume could rise. Right, I think the volume could rise because I think that's potentially a big part of that. More of, again, we've said this several times: more volume, more opportunity, more points. Right, but I think the efficiency part of it will fall because, again, with the volume, with them stacking the box, with him being the main focus for the defensive coordinators, it could potentially just the efficiency may fall. You may see his yards per carry go down or his yards per catch go down. I don't think necessarily fantasy production as a total will go down very much, if any, but I think the efficiency side will go down. First wide receiver, well, the only wide receiver I really like to talk about because I think that Jalen Tolbert, I think, will play a good role, but I think the main role for me and what I've seen in OTAs is Malik Washington. Okay, I like Malik Washington in Miami. I think that so does Malik Willis. I think they're having a great connection as of recently. I think that he really could become the default target leader. Okay. And what I mean by that is being Malik Willis's guy, third down guy. Like that when he needs a play made, he's going to look Malik Washington's way. I think, however, with most of this Dolphins offense, besides Devon Achane, I think that he is more of a deep sleeper flex option than a safe starter. Okay, I don't think you should be drafting Malik Washington as a wide receiver too. I think that you should be getting him late in the rounds and saying, wow, that's a wide receiver one potentially if they figure it out. And I'm getting him in rounds 8, 7, 8, 9. I mean, that's great potential. But you have to be able to make that happen. And sometimes it's luck of the draw. Sometimes it's just the way the draft strategies fall out. But if Malik Washington is in your 7, 8, 9, I'm taking that because, again, I think that he legitimately could be the target leader for the Miami Dolphins in the passing department. Another sneaky name I think I'd add on there is Greg Dulcich at tight end. Okay, I think that we all, as fantasy owners, understand that. I think Greg Dulcich, out of anybody, needs a breakout year, needs a redemption year. A lot of injuries to begin when he started his year in Denver, his career. But a lot has held him back. Brand new team, Miami, brand new offense, quarterback, looking for a guy. I mean, I don't think there's more of an opportunity for him to step up and say, hey, I got this, coach. I got this, Malik. Go ahead and rely on me. So I think that he could just be a sneaky tight end name that Willis can lean on in the short area throws, the red zone throws that necessarily Malik Washington or Jalen Tolbert don't have the height to get up and get, right? I would say, last year I would have the Dolphins at about a B plus, A minus, but again, this year, C plus with upside for the majority of it. They lost their elite pass gaming ability, really, like just simply put. But I think that Willis's rushing upside gives them that chaos upside that has the ability for him to be a quarterback two with some quarterback 1 weeks on the rushing upside if he has a couple scores. Next team we're going to talk about is the New York Jets. Well, okay, let's answer some questions about the Dolphins real quick. Tyreek, where is he going to go? Right? I don't think it's Miami. So I think that we can just write him off immediately. Devon Achane, again, with him being the main focus, I do think the efficiency side will go down. Where does Malik Willis rank in quarterback play? I would say a quarterback 15 could be potential. Even with that offense, with the rushing upside, I mean, rushing does a lot in production on fantasy, guys. So Malik Willis, you got Devon Achane being the main focus. I think Malik Washington, Jalen Tolbert, Greg Dulcich. I mean, that pretty much covers it. But who is the guy to step up is my question, right? And for me, I think it has to be either Malik Washington or Greg Dulcich. I think Achane's going to struggle from an efficiency part of it. And again, volume increase, but we may see a downfall in efficiency. Next team we got here will be the New York Jets. Another team with a new quarterback, not as good. in my opinion. I think I'd take Malik Willis over Geno Smith. But fantasy stars for the Jets, right? Garrett Wilson, Brees Hall. I think that sums it about up. A lot of rookies, a lot of potential. What else are the Jets ever really besides potential? I'm not sure what the offense is going to come out of. I know that these two players are draftable. Some of the questions that would surround that is Hall still a first-round fantasy pick? My answer would be no. I would take Brees Hall no higher than the second round. I just don't see the fantasy production there. Okay, Geno Smith's not, even when he had Kenneth Walker, was not even heavy reliant on Kenneth Walker. So I don't see that being the problem or the issue for Brees Hall either. So I'm not sure that their volume changes any. I mean, that these are the two stars on the offense, Sadiq, Omar Cooper Jr. But what can we say? We haven't seen anything yet. Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall are the focus of that offense, and that's no question about that. But, however, Hall is definitely not a first-round pick. Can Wilson finish as a top 5 wide receiver? Potentially. I think like Geno Smith would have to almost play favorites for that to happen. But, potentially I think that if in a perfect world, right, Geno Smith even if he turns into a Jameis Winston, okay, I mean, Garrett Wilson's probably going to see the majority of that, or should, if it's not Brees Hall catching out of the backfield. So, I mean, yes, Sadiq, Omar Cooper Jr., but again, I go off of tape, guys. I go off of what I've seen, and what I've seen is in college. Well, they're not in college anymore. Okay, from a fantasy world, that's a different ball game. It's a big gap of talent. So now I just need to see them prove. Now, obviously, we draft based off of the presumption that they're going to be good at what they do. But 8 times out of 10, those hit. Those other 2, they don't. So we'd like to see, especially with the organization they were drafted to, I'd like to see a little bit more out of those 2 before I go drafting them in a redraft. So will the Jets offense score enough touchdowns to be fantasy relevant? And that's another tough one to answer. Quarterback issue, being Garrett Wilson and Brees Hall being the only options. You probably see Garrett Wilson doubled, bracketed. You can see Brees Hall at 8 in the box. Maybe Sadiq and Omar Cooper Jr. can open up. But again, this is what we're going off of because this is what we know. I think I gave the Jets a B+. I think that's respectable. Maybe it's tad bit high. I like it better than the Dolphins. I would take Malik over Geno, but I mean, they definitely don't have a Garrett Wilson. They definitely don't have a dual back like Brees Hall and Braylon Allen. I think Braylon Allen's very underrated. I think that he could start in about 16 other teams, maybe not all 32. But I think that he could start about 16 other teams. I think he's a good talent. I think it's a good duo. I think that Aaron Glenn kind of screwed it up. There's a lot of things happening in the Jets organization, but we'll kind of see how it comes out. And, are they fantasy relevant enough to score enough? Maybe not. But like I said, those 2 players would be my if I had to take a Jets player, it would be those 2 players. Sleeper for me would be Malachi Corley. I think that, coming off a year or his rookie year, I think that he can really step in and, make that next step, a year 2 guy, prove that he deserves a starting spot, that wide receiver 2 spot. Garrett Wilson needs some help. Somebody's going to have to want to step up. And whether that's Omar Cooper Jr., Malachi Corley, or Kenyon Sadiq, I think that Corley has a good shot being already implemented into the offense. Next team we're going to talk about here, and last team of the division, the New England Patriots. Okay. Fantasy stars. Simply put, Drake May, newly acquired A.J. Brown. I would throw Chavon Henderson in there. Ramondre Stevenson, I wouldn't consider maybe a star. But yeah, I would consider those three the stars, right? The must-haves of the team. Some questions: can AJ Brown remain elite with a new team? I do. I mean, I agree. I simply put, he's going from a rush first offense to somebody that likes to get their guy the ball. You can look at when Diggs was even there. You can look at whichever season you want to look at. But I think that they have been dying for this type of player to come along, and they're going to take advantage of it. So I do have AJ Brown having a heck of a fantasy season. I mean, he's going to get the targets, the volume, the scoring opportunities. He's going to get all of those in New England as long as he's a Patriot and as long as Mike Vrabel is the coach. He basically went from a team-friendly coach, in my opinion, in Nick Sirianni, to a personal-friendly coach in Mike Vrabel that he obviously has a personal connection with from Tennessee. And I think that was the story behind it. It was just more of the connection. And, he's going to go get a lot more targets, a lot more volume. And, well, we know at the Marshall experience that equals more fantasy points. Is Drake May a top 10 fantasy quarterback? I think absolutely. I think especially this year with adding A.J. Brown, I think Drake May has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback. Even, if you look at May's rushing stats from last year, they were pretty good. He led the team in rushing several times, ran for a few touchdowns. I'm not sure the number, but I know it was definitely a few. I think that he only goes better from here with adding A.J. Brown. Like I said, he has a guy. He has Romeo Doubs, Trayvon Henderson, if they utilize him correctly. So I'm excited for May. But does Henderson become a fantasy league winner? Again, I have to see it. Okay, I have to see it before I believe it. Because we were all on the Trayvon Henderson train. I got rookie cards everywhere, guys. I mean, that's my Eagle collection. But I got Trayvon Henderson rookie cards everywhere. I thought it was just the hit of the night. Right? I thought he was going to be good. And I think he is good. I just don't think that he is being utilized to the best potential. Saw some benching for Stevenson in the playoffs. I just didn't think that he was just used properly. So hopefully that gets fixed this year. Hopefully with A.J. Brown, it kind of can take an elite off that running game, and we can just hit the holds as we get them. Fantasy grade, I would say an A-. I would say A.J. Brown, Drake May being the highlights of that. Trayvon Henderson maybe being a risky play, but I think that has an upside of potentially being a league winner if used properly. I think that the Patriots could go from being fantasy irrelevant outside of Drake May last year to this year producing 3 top 24 players. Drake May, A.J. Brown, and potentially Trayvon Henderson. Okay. Now, we covered all the teams. Now we'll get into our bold takes. Okay. 8 AFC East bold takes. Okay. Again, Drake May finishes as a top 5 fantasy quarterback. I don't think that's necessarily as bold as we have been in the past. It's very plausible. But for me, it's a bold take. Number 2, Garrett Wilson finishes as the wide receiver 3 overall. That's a really bold one. That's like a nuclear bold one. But obviously is the focus of the offense outside of Breece Hall. Volume, targets, Geno Smith needs a guy. I think it has to be Garrett Wilson until proven otherwise. I just think the opportunity is there. Garrett Wilson needs a breakout season. Geno Smith would like to get another contract on an NFL team, so maybe he needs to play his arse off. I just think the opportunities are there for Garrett Wilson to be the red zone guy, the third down guy. I mean, just generally the guy. And obviously that produces in fantasy. Now, top 3, again, very, very bold. I would say realistically, top 15 is promising. Number 3, I think that Devon Achane, bold take here, Devon Achane leads all AFC East running backs in fantasy points, even though these defensive coordinators are going to be preparing for it. I think that he will outscore. James Cook. I think he will outscore Trayvon Henderson. And I think he will outscore Brees Hall. He's the best in the division. And I don't think that's the question. I think the best that next is James Cook. But again, I think that Josh Allen takes a lot away from James Cook in the rushing department. And that's a shame because Jalen Hurts does the same to Saquon Barkley. Okay. Next bold is Keon Coleman. Finally breaks that 1,000-yard mark. It's bold. But what that offense could do with Shakir, Moore, and Coleman, maybe you put Shakir in the slot where he belongs. I mean, that could be deadly. James Cook, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. I mean, Josh Allen has got it everywhere. But I think that Keon Coleman is ready for that breakout year, and I think this could potentially be it. Number 6, I think that A.J. Brown could potentially finish as a top 5 wide receiver despite changing teams. Okay, I mean, especially, in fact, changing teams because he went from a run first to now he is the focal point of the offense. The quarterback's been gearing for a guy, yearning for one, and he got it. Number 7, Brees Hall fails to finish in the top 5. I don't think top 10. Maybe we'll change that to top 10. I don't think top 10 is plausible. Jets are just going to be bad. Jets are going to be bad, guys. I can promise you. Quote me now. The Jets are going to be bad this year. They will have a couple star players that will fantasy produce because they are going to score eventually. But it's not going to be this just how high-powered offense and everybody's just scoring and just Brees Hall's not going to finish top 10. The AFC East at number 8 in our last bold prediction. The AFC East will produce 3 top 20 running backs. James Cook, Devon Achane, and Brees Hall. I think that's a pretty goddamn good division. I think it's a beautiful division with running backs. I think, obviously, with Brees Hall, James Cook, Trayvon, I think Trayvon could even finish in there. Let's switch out Trayvon and Brees Hall. Let's do that. So let's say James Cook, Devon Achane, and Trayvon Henderson. Top 20 finishes. Brees Hall may make it 4 in top 30. Or Trayvon, whichever one you want to throw in there. But I think that the AFC is not light on the running back department, guys. I think the quarterback department is a little bit lacking outside of Josh Allen, obviously. Wide receiver wise, outside of A.J. Brown, Garrett Wilson, but it's not strong in the wide receiver department either. Okay. Tight end wise, I would say probably Hunter Henry for the Patriots would probably be the best, depending on what Sadiq does. I think for me, power ranking for fantasy would be Bills, Patriots, close 1A, 1B, I would say. Dolphins, Jets. That's what I would say. I would say that potentially the Dolphins could have a better fantasy season for the Jets. And that's sad for the Jets. It really is because the Dolphins are clearly in rework mode, rebuild. And I think with the rushing upside in Malik Willis, Geno Smith, he don't run. He throws picks. I just think that the Dolphins could potentially have a lot better offense than what New York has this year. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, man. That's all we have for the AFC East. Next week, we're going to be covering the AFC West. Denver, Kansas City. Tune in if that is your team next week at 6 p.m. on Wednesday. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, go ahead and check them out, soundsmedia.com. We've got blogs over there. there. We talk baseball, basketball, NBA, anything that you guys need, man. Go follow them. Go subscribe. And again, appreciate you guys coming in. If your team is in the AFC East, drop down in the comments and let me know what you think. And let me know if I'm wrong or we need to debate a little bit. I appreciate everybody coming in. I will see you guys next week and have a good one. Appreciate it.